Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I want to walk you guys through one of my favorite specs in BfA pre-patch, and that's Discipline Priest. I've been having a lot of fun on this class, and it's not insanely different than Legion as far as playstyle. It's a little bit different, and I'll go over that. But just like the extra abilities that we got, and then just the changes in how the talent and PvP talents work, it's just so much fun, and it feels so fluid in the gameplay. I'm going to show you guys some gameplay after the guide, but I want to talk you through the talents, kind of what I've been playing with, what you guys could start messing around with if you're playing a Discipline Priest. In the upcoming week, I also want to talk about Shadow Priest a little bit, talk about Sub Rogue a little bit, because those are all the classes I'm diving into in the new expansion. So here in this first row, we have Castigation, we have Twist of Fate, and we have Schism. Now, Schism does a lot of damage. It's a 24-second cooldown now. Attack the enemy's soul with a surge of Shadow Energy, dealing 3,148, which is actually a good amount of damage, and the tooltips are pretty decently accurate now, which is nice. Increasing damage you deal to the target by 40% for 9 seconds. It's actually a big damage increase on a cooldown. Now, I wouldn't really recommend it unless maybe you're doing a 2v2 situation where, like, you're doing a carry and you need a lot of damage and something like that. It could definitely work. If you're doing threes, if you're doing RBGs, if you're doing a lot of solo play, if you're doing any type of dueling, if you're doing any type of content like that, Twist of Fate is where it's going to be, right? Twist of Fate, if someone goes below 35% health, you'll deal 20% increased damage and healing for 10 seconds. Now, this is going to help you top someone back off. It's going to help you deal a little bit more damage, so you can do more damage and then heal more with Trinity, which changed a little bit too. So we'll get into that. So Twist of Fate is just a very solid pick. Now, I like Twist of Fate against compositions that are CCing you, maybe like an RMP, and then you have to burst heal your teammates back up, or a Thug Cleave, or a Mage Boomkin, something like that. Anything with a lot of CC, Twist of Fate is amazing. Now, if you have high uptime, Castigation can be worth it if you think you can keep your team above 35% life. And this is sometimes, right? It's kind of like similar into Legion, like, do I need to rely on that Twist of Fate, or can I get that increased healing from Castigation doing one more penance duration and then just keep our team kind of sustained? And that's a choice that we're going to kind of have to make and see as things move forward, and as burst kind of settles in, we can see how much damage each class is really doing in their burst windows. Right now, I'm just playing Twist of Fate because I don't know all the intricacies of, like, okay, I can get away with playing Castigation versus Feral, and I can't get away with playing Castigation versus Warlock, right? I don't know these things. That was just hypothetical. What I just said was just hypothetical. So until then, I'm just going to be playing Twist of Fate because it's a very, very solid pick, right? And then as I start pushing limits a little bit more, Castigation could definitely be something I start diving into as well. Now, we have Body and Soul, Masochism, and then Feather. And Body and Soul is something that, now that Shield has no cooldown, if you guys didn't know, surprise, Shield has no cooldown even without Rapture up, right? It's just no cooldown at all. Rapture now increases your Power Bridge Shield Absorb by 200%, so it just makes you have larger shields. I was like, wow, Body and Soul is going to be a great choice. But then after reading it a little bit further, can only occur once every 6 seconds on that Body and Soul bonus movement speed. So I was like, darn, okay. So it's going to be Feather a lot of the times in threes. So you're playing RMP, you need that increased movement speed to actually get the fears, get the CC out of the CC chains, so you can get to where you need to get, right? They removed the bonus speed that you get off of penance, okay? So you don't get the penance bonus movement speed anymore. So, and you can't really play Body and Soul, so you're going to be playing Feather a large majority of the time, just so you have some type of mobility. Now, if you're in a 2v2 situation, you're standing still, you're casting a lot of damage, and you can kind of wait for them to come to you. Or if you're in a 3 situation where you keep dying, and it's a cleave, maybe a DK warrior, and they're just all-inning you every game, Masochism's the obvious pick here. 10% reduced damage, gives you a heal over time instead of a damage over time. It's going to help you survive, all right? So this is kind of a judgment pick. Feather, if you need the mobility, and an RMP, and a jungle Thug Cleave when you're trying to fear off the traps or fear after the polymorphs. Masochism, if you're dying very quickly and you need an extra defensive cooldown against a team that's all inning you, or in 2v2 potentially a lot of the times when you don't need to fear as much and the mobility is not as much of an issue, but getting that damage out is more of an issue. So that's kind of a judgment pick between Feather and Masochism. And 3 is a lot of the time Feather is just going to be the way to go. Now for this next row we have Shield Discipline, which is actually an incredibly good mana talent now. The Power Word Shield has no cooldown because it's going to give you 0.5% of your maximum mana every time it's completely absorbed, and you can just spam shields literally, so it's going to give you passively a ton of mana regeneration. You have Mindbender, which replaces Shadow Fiend and gives you mana for each time it attacks. It does a little bit more damage than Shadow Fiend as well. And then you have Solace, restoring mana and dealing damage. Now, I've been playing with Solace myself just to do a little bit more damage, just to heal a little bit more with Trinity, just to give myself a little bit more consistency. And it seems like it's going very well. I've done a little bit of testing with the other 2 talents as well. It seems like Shield Discipline, honestly, with the amount of shields that you're throwing out, could just be worth it as far as the mana restore talent. Solace is a 10-second cooldown. You're getting 1% of your mana back every 10 seconds. Shield Discipline, to match that rate, you'd have to do 2 shields within 10 seconds to get absorbed, and that's not even a stretch. Sometimes it might be 3 or 4 shields within 10 seconds that can get completely absorbed. Sometimes it might not be as many, but of course you're not using Solace on cooldown every single time either. So I think Shield Discipline is going to kind of be the way to go if you just want to sustain your mana over the long run. But what's nice about Solace is it kind of gives you a mana-free way to heal, right? Shadow Man 600 mana, Penance 400 mana, Shield 500 mana, Solace 0 mana, and it actually restores mana. So in like a 2v2 situation, trying to get more damage out, trying to sustain your team on empty, Power Word Solace kind of does that. So we're going to have to play around with these talents a little bit, but I've been very, very happy with how Solace has been running so far. Additionally, one of the biggest strengths of Discipline Priest right now, and one of the reasons I like it so much, is because of how much damage it can put out, how much damage it can deal, and Solace adds to that. Right, if you get a Penance out, you Purge the Wicked out, Penance out, Solace out, all of a sudden you've done 20-30% of someone's life, and in the CC chain, their healers in the CC chain, that's actually 20 or 30% that sticks, and that's the difference of killing or forcing another major defensive cooldown from the enemy team. So that's kind of why I've been liking Solace as well. Psychic Voice, Dominant Mind, Shining Force. I think Psychic Voice 99% of the time is going to be the pick here. If there's a composition where fearing is not important, like Jungle back in Legion, Shining Force could be a pick just to gain that knockback since you're not using fear anyways. But for almost every situation, I think Psychic Voice is going to be the play here. Now, this is a hard row. Sins of the Many, Contrition, and Shadow Covenant. I don't think Shadow Covenant, I haven't done too much testing, but I don't think the scaling is super, super nice on Shadow Covenant. So it's really between Sins of the Many and Contrition. So Contrition is healing everyone with your Atonement when you use a Penance, which is good. It's just good healing, right? This becomes increasingly good if you're in a battleground, if you're in a dungeon, if you're in a situation where there is more than just yourself, right? The more people with Atonement, the more this talent is going to benefit you. I was reading somewhere, I think in a Discord or a forum, that maybe 4 or 5 people in the group makes Contrition worth it, for sure, right? So in an RBG, definitely be going Contrition. Now, Sins of the Many increases your damage by up to 12%, which is actually a cool talent, diminishing for each ally affected by your Atonement, and it does not count yourself, right? So even though I have Atonement, Sins of the Many is still 12%. However, if I were to put Atonement on someone else, it would go to 10%. It drops by 2% each person you put the shield up, or the Atonement up onto, right? So 12% increased damage is not only increased damage, but increased healing as well, as we know, healing through Trinity. So if you have the Purge the Wickeds out, they're taking a little bit harder, healing a little bit more, and then you're actually getting more damage, which is more pressure, which is more cooldowns. It kind of spins the game your way. So if you're playing with Sins of the Many, Twist of Fate, Solace, and someone's under 35% life, you're doing 20% increased damage. You have that Solace, you have the 12% increased damage from Sins of the Many. You're really pumping out some damage. Like, the damage is insane. So I've been playing with Sins of the Many. It's a very offensive pick. It's a pick where you can get the value out from getting a little bit more pressure to keep the enemy on the back foot. And then Contrition, if there's more than a couple people in your group, I think even 3 might not be enough, but if it's an RBG situation or even more than that, I think Contrition is going to be the way to go here. So Purge the Wicked, just so good. Divine Star and Halo, I haven't actually done an insane amount of testing with, but Purge the Wicked, guys, is incredibly good because it's you put the Purge the Wickeds out, and then they heal through Trinity. All right, it's one of the reasons why, as a Discipline Priest, if you get crowd controlled, but you have, say, 2-3 Purge the Wickeds out, they're healing through Trinity the whole time. It picks up your friendly team, even when you're in CC, or it doesn't pick them up, but it sustains them just a little bit, right? Super, super good. Replaces Shadow Word Pain, does a bit more damage, so we definitely like that pick there. Lenience, Luminous Barrier, and Evangelism. Lenience, just Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. That's just good, right? That's just good. 3% reduced damage is a lot of reduced damage. If you apply that on a grand scale, right? That at the end of a game, that could save you thousands and thousands, or if we're talking about Legion scaling, millions and millions of damage done, right? But since everything's stat squish now, a little bit less than that. Luminous Barrier is interesting. Creates a shield on allies within 40 yards, absorbing 5,621 damage on each of them for 10 seconds. This might be incredible in rated battlegrounds, and I do want to mention, guys, if you do take Luminous Barrier, you can also play with Dome of Light, which means it's only a 2-minute cooldown, I believe, well, when PvP combat is entered, but reduces the cooldown of Luminous Barrier by 60 seconds, so it goes from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, and Luminous Barrier absorbs an additional 45% damage. That's pretty insane. This all of a sudden turns into one of the craziest cooldowns ever. So like in an RPG situation, I would not be surprised if Luminous Barrier was the pick for a huge 2-minute defensive cooldown. And then for Evangelism, just doesn't seem worth. Just maybe in PvE, but in PvP, there's no way that would outvalue Luminous Barrier or Lenience. So it's probably going to be Lenience for 3s, Lenience for most 2s or solo play, and then Luminous Barrier as more and more people end up joining your party. So that's the talents, guys. That covers the talents. As far as PvP talents, I'm going to go over PvP talents, and then I'm going to talk about the changes of this spec real quick, just so you guys know the differences from Legion. But I think Trinket is kind of the play here, most of the time at least. You could maybe mess around with Relentless. I would not give Adaptation too much of a go on Discipline, though. And then as far as the talent pick, so this is where it gets a little tricky, all right? I've been doing some testing, and this is like, it depends what you're playing, it depends what you're playing against, it depends if you're doing 2s, it depends if you're doing 3s, like, this all depends, all right? So I'll try my best. Trinity, very solid lock-in. You're getting more healing through Atonement. Atonement can only be applied through Power Word Shield, which, if you guys haven't noticed, just quickly, there is no more spell called Plea, right? Plea is removed. Think of Power Word Shield as Plea now, right? There's no cooldown. It doesn't shield for as much as it used to. It's a small shield with no cooldown, 500 mana. You can kind of spam it out onto everybody, and it kind of is just there to apply Atonement, at least when you're there with Trinity. So Shield is now Plea and Shield kind of baked into one, kind of combined. So it's very interesting for the playstyle, which I actually enjoy. I actually like it. Now, Ultimate Radiance is the second pick that I've been locking in, and it's interesting because I was like, no, this talent's going to suck. I'm not going to play it. I don't need it. I do enough damage kind of without it. But guys, I don't know if it's the scaling, but every time I hit Ultimate Radiance, it's instant cast, by the way, with this talent, and the healings increase as well. Every time you hit Ultimate Radiance, it takes them from 20% to 40%, especially when you pair it with Twist of Fate, right? You have Twist of Fate up. A target is below 35% life, you Ultimate Radiance, and all of a sudden they're topped. That's crazy, right? You don't really have a heal like that as Discipline. I mean, you have Shadow Mend, you have Penance, but if you get kicked in Shadow Mend, Penance is on cooldown, what are you going to hit? You throw a shield for 3,000 damage, that's going to be broken. What do you really do? By the way, Clarity is removed. Clarity of Will is removed, so you can't, if Penance is on cooldown, all right, and you're kicked in Shadow Mend, your target's going to die. Now with Radiance, it kind of gives you this backup where, boom, it's a huge burst heal that tops them back off. So it's very nice to fill in the gaps, and I've been loving the talent. Now, as this last spot, Purification, the double Dispel talents, same as last expansion, is nice against mages with Polymorph spam, warlocks with Fear spam, anything where you have to dispel more than once on your friendly team. But this can be changed out, right? It can be changed out for Premonition if you want to maybe Shadow, I call it Shadow or Death, but Premonition, the Polymorphs, Premonition Blinds, Fears, Hexes, anything like that, boom, you throw the Premonition. If they don't have any of those CCCs, you can go with Purification, right? If you're playing something very offensive, like an RMP or a jungle, or a Thug Cleave with CC Huge Burst, Dark Archangel, solid pick here, right? So there's a lot of different things you can mess around with. 2v2, Searing Light, a lot of the times, right? Searing Light is incredible in 2s because you can get those smites out to reduce the cooldown of penance and then get those penances out, which, by the way, a lot of the times you want to pair Searing Light with Castigation. More penances, more Castigation value kind of overtakes Twist of Fate value in the long run. Once again, depends on what you're fighting, though. So, Premonition versus things you can death. Dark Archangel if you're doing all-in CC Burst Comp. Searing Light maybe in 2s. Archangel, I just want to touch. I don't think it's really worth anymore, which might surprise some of you guys, but it's on global cooldown. It's very difficult to find time and value to pop Archangel. Let me give you a situation. You're in a CC. You're in a polymorph. Your teammate's taking a lot of damage. You get out of the polymorph. Your teammate's at 20% life. What are you going to do? You're going to cast Archangel. You're going to cast Archangel, rather, and use an entire global when your teammate's at 20% life and then watch them die? Or are you going to pop Powered Radiance and top them? You're going to use a Penance or a Shield or a Shadow Mend. Those are much better options. Using a global on Archangel is going to hurt you more than it's going to help you when you're in times of need. Now, when you're in not times of need, when you have a global to spare, when you can pop it, then you don't need it. Right, so that's kind of the situation where I'm with Archangel. It's like, when I would use it, I don't have time to use it. And then when I have time to use it, I don't need it. So it's just this awkward talent, which I don't feel is very good right now. That could change. That could definitely change. Archangel could be a talent. I could watch this video months from now once BfA metagame kind of sinks in, and maybe there is a use case for it, and it's a little bit better than I'm thinking. But for right now, it seems very hard to get value out of at the time that you actually need it. Now, Dome of Light, I do like that paired with Luminous Barrier if you're doing some type of RBG, like we talked about. Strength of Soul, I thought it would be very good, right? Initially, I was like, oh my goodness, Powered Shield, no cooldown, Strength of Soul, incredible. And it still could be against double melee comps, like a double melee comp with nothing that you have to Shadow or Death, boom. This would be your pick right here, right? Trinity, Ultimate Radiance, Strength of Soul. But guys, the shields are very small now. Since shield has no cooldown, it's only absorbing 3,000 damage. That's about it, right? It's just a small shield, so it's going to break, and that 15% damage isn't going to persist for very long. So, I mean, the value you're getting is very small. Then we have Purified Resolve. If you want to say it's a caster team, they don't have spammable CC. And so you don't want Purification, you don't want Death. You could throw Purified Resolve in this last spot. But generally, guys, I'm gonna be playing probably with something like this, like how I had it when you first watched the video, against double dispel teams. But I'll be changing this last talent a lot to Premonition if I have the Death, to Strength of Soul if I don't have the Death and it's double melee, to Searing Light if I'm doing 2s, right? So this last one is a kind of a wild card pick. And then just quickly, guys, to talk about, so that talks about talents, honor talents. You guys should be good to go on there. That's at least what I've been playing with, and it seems very strong so far. The damage is ridiculous. The healing's ridiculous. The throughput's ridiculous. The mana regen's ridiculous. Everything seems really good. So Disc Priests look like they're in a fantastic spot. And then quickly to tell you guys what's been changing with Discipline Priest. Desperate Prayer is back. It's not just a holy talent anymore, and it increases your maximum health by 25% and it instantly heals you for that amount. So it's like a Battle Master Trinket or something like that on a 1.5 minute cooldown. So incredible talent back. I love having this because it really rewards you. If you can pre-Desperate Prayer or swap, you're going to survive. If you can't, you'll die. Stuff like that is really cool and awesome for the game. Shield, like I said, replaces Plea. Plea is no longer in the game. Shield is kind of a Plea-esque talent now, and it's less of a shield itself. It doesn't absorb too much damage, kind of how it used to, but it's really used to apply those atonements. Powered Radiance is still here. Its cast ability, unless you spec into it. Light's Wrath is now gone, right? You don't have the artifact weapon anymore. It's still in my bars, though. Powered Fortitude is back. We have buffs back. Pretty much every class has their buff back, and it feels so great to have buffs. I love it. Love having my Intellect and my Mage, my Fortitude on the Priest. Absolutely wonderful. And I think that's about it. Priest still have life grip. You have the barrier. You have the pain suppression. Yeah, I think that's about it, boys. But that's kind of how you should be speccing Disc Priest and playing Disc Priest in 8.0 for that BfA pre-patch. Let's hop into a quick game so I can show you guys kind of how it's being played. Alright guys, here we are in Blade's Edge Arena. I'm playing Hunter, Rogue, Discipline, Priest, and we are fighting an RMP. So right off the bat, I think I am playing Death here on that third talent choice. I'm actually not playing Radiance, and I should be, I think. So like I said, guys, I've been testing a lot of different things, and this might have just been one of those games where I was testing Radiance one game, or I wasn't testing in the next game, because I want to test all of these talents to kind of see what comes out. But we're just doing skirms here on the 110 realms, having a good time. First things first, throw out the Purge the Wicked, Purge the Wicked the Rogue, Purge the Wicked the Mage, get the damage rolling so the healing starts rolling as well. Throw out that Desperate Prayer before the kidney, like we just talked about. Now, I'm still in the habit of using Fade. I don't think Fade actually does anything anymore. Currently, at least, it used to give you a damage reduction, but I did pre-Desperate Prayer the kidney, so I have more health for this swap, and it looks like I'm going to be A-okay. Now, I kind of should be making my way over downtown to the Priest. He did get trapped into the blind there. He does trinket the blind. Mage is in the ice block. Could try to throw out that Master Spell. Rogue still has kick. He doesn't actually kick me there. Master Spell goes off. Dispel Colo. Reapply the Purge the Wicked. It's very important. Trying to throw out that Shadow of Death on the Poly. My Rogue gets Poly. Dispel it. Tons of damage coming in onto the Mage with that offensive penance. Make sure that Atonement is applied through shield onto my Rogue, since he's the one that kind of needs it right now. I should be rebuffing stamina as well. It's kind of a mistake that I didn't. I push in here, try to get that fear, end up landing that fear as well. My Rogue, I dispel him, grip him over to the Mage, and the Mage goes down. So just kind of a quick game there. Kind of shows how offensive Priest can be with the damage output. With the Master Spells, with the Dispels, everything like that. And like this is kind of a good example of a game where I was like, oh, Powered Radiance, I don't really need it, because look at the base of the game. I never actually needed it. Here I am fixing one of my add-ons. But that's why I never really tried it or played it at the start. But then as I played with it more and more, I was like, oh, this is pretty good because it tops someone in one heal. But look at the damage breakdown, guys. The enemy team is on the back foot the entire time. Xaryu's 32 I want to say 32 million, but 32,000 damage. Still trying to get used to that. That's good. That's good damage. It's half of what my other teammates were doing, and I was in CC plus topping heals that game. So Disc Priest looking very strong offensively, very strong defensively. Excited to play this healer in the expansion. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Give the video a thumbs down if you did not enjoy the video. Talk to me in the comments about what you guys want to see for next time. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next upload. Peace.